Many people wonder how to protect themselves best against infection with the coronavirus. Especially one question seems to be coming up a lot. Soap or hand sanitizer? What works better against coronavirus? Thorough hand washing with soap can inactivate coronavirus completely. Most envelope viruses, including the coronavirus, are made up of three components: fats, proteins, and genetic information. The genetic material, in the case of coronavirus the so-called RNA, which carries information for the structure of the virus, is located in the innermost part. Then there are various proteins, which are important for the function of the virus, so it can reproduce in our cells. The whole thing is now enveloped by a layer of lipids, which on the one hand protect the important interior and on the other hand play an important role in docking to our cells. The coronavirus is mainly transmitted by droplet infection, that means speaking, coughing or sneezing. Transmission by smear infection is also possible, for example by touching the door handle that an infected person has previously touched. It is currently assumed that the coronavirus can survive on surfaces for several hours to days. To destroy the virus, simple water is usually not enough. It sticks quite firmly to our hands and unfortunately cannot be removed so easily. Therefore we need to add soap. Soap is a so-called surfactant. In simple terms, it consists of two components: a water-attracting hydrophilic and a fat-loving lipophilic part. In water, they form a very funny structure. The water-attracting molecular heads face the water and the fat-loving molecular tails face inwards and collect dissolved dirt during washing. This ball is also called a micellar. Soaps are so good for washing because they reduce the surface tension of the water. As a result, it can come into much better contact with surfaces, such as our skin, and also remove dirt from previously inaccessible areas, including the fatty virus coat. The envelope gets destroyed as soon as it gets in touch with the soap. It really collapses like a house of cards, is then absorbed into the micellar ball and finally washed away from the hands by water. As our skin is quite rough and uneven, you need a good amount of soap that has to be left on for a long time. You also need to rub a lot to make sure it gets everywhere and can dissolve dirt and viruses. You also want to reach crook and sloping areas on the skin surface where viruses like to hide. So to be clear, washing thoroughly doesn't mean holding your hands briefly under the tap. Here I have summarized the most important points you should pay attention to. First, hands should be kept under running water. Water temperature doesn't matter at all. You should soap your hands thoroughly so that a lot of foam is created. Don't forget the spaces between your fingers and your fingernails. This is where most of the germs collect. You should wash your hands for at least 20, better 30 seconds. You can, for instance, sing happy birthday twice. It seems to be longer than you think, so be patient. Then rinse your hands thoroughly with the water. Close the tap with your elbow if possible, otherwise you will touch it where your dirty fingers have turned on the tap before. Dry your hands well with disposable towels or a towel that only you and no one else uses. And be careful with public toilets. If possible, open the door handle with elbows or paper towel only. By the way, it really doesn't matter what kind of soap you use. Soap is soap and there are no big differences. But there are also hand sanitizers. Are they better suited than soap to destroy the virus? Hand sanitizers are even a bit less effective than soap and water. They are only useful if you're not in a position to be able to wash your hands. When using hand sanitizers, you should make sure that you use those that mainly contain alcohol. Like soap, alcohol dissolves the lipid envelope of the virus and also destroys its proteins, thus making it harmless. However, for this to happen quickly enough, a fairly high concentration of at least 60% is required. Whiskey or vodka, for example, only contain around 40% alcohol, so they are suited better for drinking and less for disinfecting hands. Good for us. Many hand sanitizers also advertise being antibacterial. But be careful, these are not effective against viruses, they only work for bacteria. By the way, when I talk about effectiveness against viruses, I mean enveloped viruses like the coronavirus. Non-enveloped viruses such as norovirus, which causes diarrhea and vomiting, aren't killed by alcohols. You have to use hand sanitizers in sufficient quantities. It needs to be enough to cover all areas of both hands, and it's also important to apply long enough for it to work. So until your hands are dry again, which also corresponds to the 20-second period. Still, washing your hands with soap is much more effective. In contrast to hand sanitizers, the virus is rinsed away from the hand with running water, and additionally, it will remove dirt and grease in which viruses and other germs, such as bacteria, live. By the way, soaking hands constantly in alcohol or washing them with soap and water is unfortunately not very good for your skin. After some time, it becomes dry and cracked, which in turn makes it more susceptible to pathogens, which can more easily get stuck there. This is why many hand sanitizers contain care lotions, like glycerol or aloe vera extract, but the best tip is you should not only wash your hands well, but also make use of moisturizing hand cream regularly, especially now in the cold season. I really hope these tips have helped you a little. Stay healthy, wash your hands, and see you in the next video.
Bis zum nächsten Video. Boah.